Welcome to another episode of Historical Markers. This week we happen to be in Jackson County, Alabama. Why Alabama? Well, my wife's doing a craft retreat here this week, and so I'm going around this county and looking up the historical markers. So join us as we explore Jackson County. We're now in Bryant, Alabama, and this one talks about Ebenezer Church. The Ebenezer Baptist Church is the oldest church on the northern end of Sand Mountain. Its origins date back to the 1850s log church and school called Gordon Chapel. Renamed Ebenezer, the church became a member of the Tennessee River Baptist Association circa 1875. Pioneer preachers of the church include the Reverends Z.H. Gordon, Thomas L. Quarles, J.C. Lambert, and Thomas J. Tom Smith. In 1909, the log church was replaced with a white wood frame building located on 3 acres of land donated by James Monroe and Millie Winters. In use for a half century, the second structure burned on January 18, 1959. The congregation worshipped at the American Legion Hall until July 1960, when the church's third sanctuary was completed. During the previous century, the church was affiliated at different times with the Lookout Valley, Georgia Baptist Association and the Sand Mountain Baptist Association. On the other side, we have the Gordon family. The Reverend Zachariah H. Gordon, 1794 to 1886, was a pioneer landowner, businessman, and settler of the area that became Bryant, Alabama. In the mid-1850s, Gordon moved his family from Walker County, Georgia, to the Alabama farm near the northern end of what is now Jackson County Road 89. The family started a church and school called Gordon Chapel soon after. Living near the borders of 3 states, son John B. Gordon, 1832 to 1904, wrote in his 1903 autobiography that before the Civil War began, his family resided in Alabama, mined coal in Georgia, and received their mail at a post office in Tennessee. During the Civil War, John B. Gordon served with the Raccoon Roughs, rising to the rank of Major General. After the war, he was twice elected to the United States Senate in 1873 and 1891, and was governor of Georgia from 1886 to 1890. In 1863, Reverend Gordon sold his Cole County hollow mining interests to the Castle Rock Coal Company and relocated to southwest Georgia. He died in 1886 and is buried in Linwood Cemetery in Columbus, Georgia. The first post office in Bryant, Alabama, opened in 1891 near Moore's Cap. We're here in Dutton, Alabama, to learn about the town of Dutton. The town of Dutton was incorporated in 1963. The town was named after Marion M. Dutton. The prime reason for incorporating the area was to have an entity in place in order to form the Waterworks Board of Dutton and to be able to borrow government funds to install a water system. The present town hall and fire department building was constructed in 1989. The land was donated by W.L. and Pauline Dilbeck. Former mayors include E.B. Thomas, W.L. Dilbeck, Denny Higgins, John B. Ryan, Franklin Myers, Oscar Beard, Sue Strickland, Larry Stockman, Philip Anderson, John Mickey, Ryan, and Brian Stewart. The town was awarded the Alabama Municipal Achievement Award in 2007 and a national award in 2007 for its participation in the National Night Out program. Each year, Dutton celebrates with a community Christmas parade and open house at the town hall on the second Saturday of December. Dutton Volunteer Fire Department was established in 1967 from the dreams of a group of men to whom the community will always owe a huge debt. Founding members of the fire department include James Bell, George Dupree, Dean Germany, Glenn Gregg, Denny Higgins, Pat Milliken, J.C. Mount, Franklin Myers, James Smart, John B. Ryan, Mickey Ryan, Darrell Stockman, Sylvie Stockman, and Charles Teague. Sylvie Stockman served as the first fire chief. Just like their predecessors, today fire department members are committed to providing a vital service to the community. The Dutton Community Park was built in 1978 with the help of Dutton Ruraltan Club. The town purchased 14 acres of land for the project. The Dutton Community Library formed in 2008 and is currently housed in the home of the late Virgie Chambers, a retired schoolteacher. One room of the library is dedicated to her memory and her love of teaching. In 2009, the town of Dutton and the Dutton Community Library was presented the Alabama League of Municipalities Municipal Quality of Life Award. This marker is on the extreme northern edge of the county, and it's called Walls of Jericho. It's a natural preserve, recreation area, and wildlife management area. This tract was protected and made available for public recreation through the efforts of the Alabama Forever Wildland Trust, the Alabama State Lands Division of the Department of Conservation and the Natural Resources and the Nature Conservancy. This unique land is dedicated to the Alabamians who have supported the establishment of the Forever Wild program and whose continuing efforts ensure the special places in Alabama remain forever wild. And here is the trail that you can follow down. Apparently this trail is about 3.5 miles long. I do not believe I will be hiking it today, but it does look like it would be an interesting trail to hike. So here we go, hiking trail, 3.5 miles. This marker's in the town of Flat Rock. Talks about the Flat Rock High School from 1911 to 1929. In 1905, the Methodist Episcopal Church South authorized Dr. Frank Gardner and his wife Annie to begin Flat Rock School. In 1911, Flat Rock High School formally opened. It was the only high school on Sand Mountain north of Albertville. The North Alabama Methodist Conference approved Dr. Gardner as the school superintendent and Robert H. Hartford to be the first principal. The school's first graduation was held in 1912. In 1914, construction began on a 2-story administration building made of stone quarried from the property of Andrew Hogue, completed at a cost of $12,000. The new building featured 4 recitation halls, a library, an office, and a large auditorium with opera-style seating. The auditorium hosted church services and school programs beginning in 1917. Erected by the Jackson County Historical Association, Flat Rock Community Club, and local citizens during the bicentennial of Jackson County and the state of Alabama. Now we have to walk around the fence to get to the other side. I'm assuming the building back there made of stone may be the building that it was referring to. And then here's the current Flat Rock School. Flat Rock High School offered a classical curriculum which included instruction in foreign languages as well as a diverse agricultural course of study. At its height, the 292-acre school campus included 2 dormitories, a library, vocational building, grist mill, and a sawmill. The church historian called the school one of the Methodism's best. Other principals of the school were N. Homer Price in 1913, Isaac Carlton, 1915, Leon G. Alverson, 1918 to 21 and 1926 to 27, George W. Floyd from 1921 to 25, and William Marvin McDonald, 1925 to 26. The last superintendent was Dr. Samuel L. Dobbs from 1928 to 29. In the mid-1920s, the boys' dormitory burned. A few years later, in 1929, the girls' dormitory burned as well. After these setbacks and diminished funding with the onset of the Great Depression, the school's Board of Trustees reluctantly closed the school in 1929 and sold it to the state of Alabama. The Jackson County Board of Education later reopened it as a junior high school serving 9 grades. Finally made it to the city of Langston. Almost got here, and they said road closed, so I had to go back around a different route and find another way here. This is a town I can say that it's almost impossible to get to. Anyway, the history of Langston. The small village of Coffeetown, located to the southeast of what is now Langston, was established in the 1810s. Coffeetown faded away in 1869 when most of its residents moved to Texas. It was then that James Morgan sold 15 acres in town lots, and the town of Langston was born. The town was named after Langston Coffee, the first postmaster. When river transportation thrived in the 1800s and early 1900s, Langston prospered. Langston once had 5 physicians, a livery stable, stores, jail, school, Masonic Lodge, a movie theater, several churches, a post office, blacksmith shop, grist mill, and a steam-operated cotton gin. The TVA project, which built the Guntersville Dam in 1938, flooded this once prosperous town. It forced those who lived within the TVA boundaries to move. This left the skeleton of what was once a thriving town. Here in Paint Rock, Alabama, we have the Paint Rock arrest in 1931 began Scottsboro Boys cases. On March 25, 1931, Jackson County Sheriff Matt Wann ordered an armed posse to stop a Southern Railway freight at Paint Rock after 6 hoboing white boys complained they had been thrown off by black teens. 2 white women from Huntsville who had also been aboard told station agent W.H. Hill and Deputy Charlie Latham they had been raped. At Scottsboro, Victoria Price and Ruby Bates identified Chattanooga teens Clarence Norris, Haywood Patterson, Eugene Williams, and brothers Andy and Roy Wright, as well as Georgia residents Charlie Weems, Olin Montgomery, Willie Robinson, and Ozzie Powell as their attackers. The black men denied the charges. 4 all-white Scottsboro juries reached multiple guilty verdicts with death sentences on April 6th through 9th. The U.S. Supreme Court overturned the convictions and moved the future trials to Decatur, where Ruby Bates recanted her accusations. The trials, which created support for the defendants, continued into 1937 with more convictions, but none of the men were executed. In 2013, the state of Alabama exonerated the 9 men, the last of whom died in 1989, and issued pardons. Then on the other side of this marker, we have the history of Paint Rock, Alabama. Originally Camden, circa 1830, the post office was renamed Redmond in 1846 and became Paint Rock on May 17, 1860. After the Memphis and Charleston Railroad Company built a depot and water tower in 1856, the village thrived as a farm to market center. 4 battles were waged nearby during the Civil War, and Union troops guarded the railroad. Early industries included a mill to grind corn and wheat, a pencil mill, and 2 mills made staves for whiskey barrels. In the early 1900s, the town acquired a hosiery mill and a chair factory. By the 1930s, the bustling town boasted a bank, car dealership, textile mill, drugstore, and hotel. The 2-story brick Rousseau store sold merchandise from farm plows to groceries and caskets. Tornadoes damaged the region in 1870, 1880, and 1932. The 1932 storm killed 6 people and destroyed the textile mill, half the town's homes, and most of the downtown buildings. Highway construction widening US 72 in 1975 removed most of the remaining business section of the town. You can see the widened 72 and the train going by. This markers for the Trail of Tears. In May 1838, soldiers under the command of General Winfield Scott began rounding up Cherokee Indians in this area who had refused to move to Indian Territory, known as Oklahoma. About 15,000 Cherokees were placed in stockades in Tennessee and Alabama until their removal. Roughly 3,000 were sent by boat down the Tennessee River, and the rest were marched overland in the fall and winter of 1838 to 39. This forced removal under harsh conditions resulted in the deaths of about 4,000 Cherokees. In late 1838, a party of 1,070 poorly equipped Indians was marched overland from Ross's Landing at Chattanooga, Tennessee, to Waterloo, Alabama, because of low water in the upper Tennessee River. Following the general route of present-day U.S. Highway 72, they camped at Bolivar, Belafonte, and Woodville in Jackson County. About 300 escaped along the way, and at Belafonte on June 26, the remainder refused to proceed. The local militia, under the command of Army Captain G.S. Drain, was called out to get the group started and escort it to Waterloo. Arriving in miserable condition on July 10, 1838, the Cherokees were placed in boats to continue their journey west. The Trail of Tears, which resulted from the Indian Removal Act passed by the U.S. Congress in 1830, is one of the darkest chapters in American history. This route was designated as the Trail of Tears Corridor of North Alabama by resolution of the Alabama Legislature on July 13, 1995. Alabama remains the home of many Cherokee Indians today. And it says, this monument was relocated from its original location on the Alabama-Tennessee state line on the previous U.S. Highway 72 route, which is the road back behind over there. And then there is this Alabama welcomes you. It says the Union's 22nd state in 1819, December the 14th. Says this was erected by the State Highway Department of Alabama, Frank M. Dixon, Governor, Chris J. Sherlock, Director, in 1942. This marker is in Section, Alabama for the town of Section. Section, Alabama is on land where the Cherokee once hunted and lived. There were communities such as Kirby Creek, Gossett's Hollow, and Fern Cliff. These communities came together to form the town of Section. Pioneer settlers came in large numbers in 1862 to Section. Settlers were required to live on the land for 5 years before claiming the property as their own. Section was officially incorporated in August of 1910. The town began an annual Labor Day celebration in 1974, making it 36 years old in 2010. This marker in Jackson County in Skyline is called Skyline Farms. History excerpted from various articles written by Dr. David Campbell, president of the Northeast Alabama State Community College. Skyline Farms was an effort to build a new world in rural America where tenant farmers, hit hard by the Great Depression, would become self-sufficient landowners and live in an idyllic village. The program was started by the Federal Emergency Relief Administration in 1934 and operated later by the Resettlement Administration and the Farm Security Administration. Skyline Farms, carved out of the mountain wilderness, was one of some 40 farm communities established during President Franklin Roosevelt's administration. The federal government acquired some 18,000 acres of land for Skyline Farms, initially called Cumberland Mountain Farms. The program was intended to help tenant families get a new start in life by acquiring a home and eventually their own 40-acre farm. The program also provided work for the unemployed in the area through construction of roads and buildings. Additionally, the government built a small factory at Skyline and then leased the facility to a private company. Despite its good intentions, the Skyline Farm Community Project was charged with waste and mismanagement, and only a few of the selected families were able to acquire their units. Most families could never make the 1/4 down payment, and finally, under pressure from Congress, the Farm Security Administration ended its farm community programs, and units at Skyline were sold to private buyers. Sadly, Skyline Farms families who could not make their down payment were forced to leave their homes. Skyline Farms did have its benefits. It carried many families through the worst part of the Great Depression, and people received adequate health care, food, clothing, and housing during very hard times. Many participants learned skills at Skyline Farms that permitted them to find work as painters, stonemasons, or carpenters after they left the project. The children of the project obtained educations that would last a lifetime. And then behind us here is a building. That is the Skyline Farms Heritage Association and the Rock Store Museum. This marker is outside the Skyline High School. It says Skyline School. The Skyline School was built as part of the Skyline Farms project, a self-help program that the United States government conducted in 1934 to 1945 for unemployed farmers. Started by the Federal Emergency Relief Administration, the program loaned selected farmers and their families a house, operating funds, and 40 to 60 acres to farm. As part of the effort to create a model community, government officials wanted to provide an education for the children of the project. Nationally known landscape architect William Kessler designed the school and grounds. Using native sandstone in the construction, the school opened in 1938. Educators at Skyline introduced new educational ideas to the state, such as individualized instruction for students and grades based on student-tested abilities. Workers from the Special Skills Office, such as folk song collector Bascom Lunsford and director Nicholas Ray, conducted various programs at the school. And here's the school itself. I'm assuming this was probably the original school. Well, that was Jackson County, Alabama. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. We learned a lot of information, a lot of Civil War stuff happening in this area. And so, if you're ever in the area, look up some of these markers and see what you can see.